got a person who has a karma of 7, and the karma of 7 is related to boundaries, strategies, and structures. Now, Pythagoras, again, who's the father of mathematics and numerology, considered the 7 what they call a seraphim number. And the seraphim is a Kabbalic term, and it means the highest level of angels in heaven before you touch God. So it kind of goes angels, archangels, thrones. The top level of thrones before you touch God is called the seraphim level. The seraphim level is where people, when they die, they hear the music. When they die, they have to review the patterns of their life and the choices of their life and how those choices affected the things that happened next. So 7s are people that want to know why. They're the why people. So a person who's born in the 7th month wants a structure. They want to know why. They want to know the rules. If you just tell me what you need, I'll do the best to give you that. That's how their brain wants to think. So a 7 wants to work within a spectrum that they see as consistent and that they can repeatedly get the same result. So they like a repeatable, quantifiable result pattern. Again, 7s do really well in money, and so Cancers in general do pretty good in money because they figure out the pattern that makes money and they keep doing that pattern, okay? They figure out the pattern that works in family and they keep doing that pattern. So a Cancer is good at managing and supervising people. They see the patterns and things that work. It's a very strong cognitive number because it's searching for patterns, it sorts for patterns, it's interested in patterns. So people who are astrologers, astronomers, physicists, space-age technology, programmers, numerologists, all of those are 7s. Because all of those are about structures and strategies and patterns and how do those patterns make sense. So now you've got, though, a Leo that's born in the 7th month. And so now you've got a Leo that's got the watery depth of Cancer, but the fiery energy and vitality of Leo. So notice again, we've got the water-fire thing again, which creates a force and a steam and pattern and stuff. But I like to think of this one more like a geyser, okay? So whereas the other one is like a steam engine, this one is more like a geyser because the Leo energy is much more, it's got a bigger flow than an Aries. Aries likes to start things but not finish things. And a Leo is more like a volcano going off, and therefore if you mix a volcano with water, you get a geyser, and so you get that water going off that way. So now you've got a karma of a person who is a Leo. They've got that fiery water, that hot water, and that vitality. They want to move it in a particular direction, and they have a clear direction which way they want that to go. And so again, this gives the best of both without the worst of both. So the Leo can be a little pompous and egotistical, but this particular one is very sensitive like a Cancer, so they're waterier and more sensitive and more caring, and you know, they do get bothered, like they don't want to be too arrogant, right? You know, so they're going to have that calmer, watery quality, whereas a Leo might be more like a lava flow. This is more like a geyser or a hot pot kind of thing, okay? So then if we go to the 8th month, which is Leo, okay, and so we go to the 8th month, which is Leo, and the karma of 8 is related to prana and breath. And again, as above, so below, as below, so above. So we're dealing with that figure 8. The karma of 8 says this person is working on breath. They are working on balancing heaven and earth. They are working on releasing grief and sorrow and sadness. So we've got the Leo right here that is working on this. And Leos, again, don't like to look sad, mopey, grumpy, depressed, or down. And so an 8 karma says that this person in past lives has looked at everybody else's problems and said, wow, that person's in way worse shape than me. I'm going to help them. And when I help them, I feel so much better that I'm just going to put my sadness to the side right there and not worry about it because I'm feeling so much better now. So Leos have avoided their sadness by helping others, which is nice, but at a certain point you still have to deal with yourself and you still have to deal with your own inner sadness. So the Leo will try to avoid it. So a Leo will have to get thrown into their sadness, sometimes a little aggressively. So what happens is that everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine, and then the shit hits the fan metaphorically, and everything starts to be a huge problem, and then Leos are in complete overwhelm because it's just too much. So the 8 energy is about breathing and grief, and so Leos oftentimes when they stress out, they don't breathe. So they actually don't take full breaths, they don't exercise, they hold their breath, you know, they're like this. And the reason for this is that you can't get angry. If you ever notice, it's like, don't breathe, don't breathe. You know, it just suddenly goes bursting out of you. But if you're trying to control the anger, you're trying to not let it out, don't breathe. If you just don't breathe, you won't let out the truth, which is the anger and the resentment and all that kind of stuff. So, but this is really bad for Leos because it means they oftentimes have breathing problems and they have lung problems. And you can oftentimes tell when a Leo is suppressing breath because they have nose problems, respiratory problems, laryngitis, bronchitis, you know, pneumonia, all those kinds of things. And so they have to be aware of this also as they get older because their weakness is their lungs if they have not processed grief properly in their life. So then you've got a Virgo that is born in the 8th month. So this is going to give a Virgo, and Virgos are, they are the meticulous, detailed people of the universe. So Virgos are the healers of business, and Virgos are incredibly meticulous. But a Virgo born in the 8th month has this lion-like, bigger-than-life quality. So they've got that sunny warmth and disposition of a Leo, whereas most Virgos don't. Okay, but this particular number pattern will, and they still have been doing the same pattern the Leos have been doing, which is about suppressing sadness, but they've kind of covered it up with this sunny, warm disposition energy, when actually there's tremendous grief and sadness that's in there on the inside that's eating away at them. And so they have to use their meticulousness of their Virgo to dive into that and rearrange it a little bit. Now, okay, let's go on to the next one. 8. Go to the 9. Okay. For the time being. Okay, so now we're dealing with Virgo energy. A karma of 9 is the karma of Isis Nephthys. So the karma again is related to mysticism and intuition. Now notice I said a minute ago that Virgos are the healers of business. So Virgos in general don't see themselves as incredibly intuitive or mystical. They're the healers of business. I mean, you want a job done, you give it to a Virgo. I mean, a Virgo is always going to get the job done. It's pretty amazing. But they don't see themselves as intuitive, but they actually are very intuitive with business. The trick is that their karma is they need to be intuitive in every area of their life. So they need to listen to the subtle energies. And so what happens with a Virgo is sometimes because they're an earth sign, they can get a little forceful. They can get a little forceful and driven, and again, they're ruled by Mercury, so it's this communication side, so their words are forceful, their communication is forceful, their energy is forceful, and yet their karma is subtlety. It's the opposite, which is really interesting. So the karma of 9 says they need to work on subtlety, they need to work on feeling other people's hearts. They need to work on making other people a priority, not themselves or the business. They need to work on listening. They need to work on slowing down. They need to work on their own internal depth. They need to work on finding out what really makes them tick. So whereas a Leo, they need to work on sadness, the Virgo needs to work on the whole emotional body. Which is a big project. I mean, it's a whole emotion, like what am I feeling in any particular moment? And a Virgo would rather do business, because business is pretty clear cut. It's pretty like boom, 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 boom. But a Virgo needs to go inward. And so whether this means that they do personal growth workshops or whether they go do therapy, but I don't care who they are or what they've done some sort of inner work because they had to. Because something was painful, that something was so painful in their life that they actually had to learn this from another angle. But the karma of 9 says they need to listen to their body, pay attention to their emotions, listen to the subtlety, allow the subtle nuances to come in. But oftentimes they will create a world that's pretty black and white unless their numbers, again, in other areas are reflecting that they have a better refinement of that. So you do find Virgos that, like if you have a Virgo that only has 1, 9 in their numbers and no sensitivity numbers anywhere else, their house will be pretty austere and black and white and really functional and you know, more like a guy's house. But this karma is feminine, okay, so this is a karma of feminine, which means they need pretty colors, they need a space that reflects themselves, they need to have their house feng shuied, they need to not eat the same thing every single day, they need to go get their massage, they, you know, they need to do these subtle things. And if they have subtle numbers in other places, they'll do it beautifully, because you do see some Virgos that, oh my gosh, they've got beautiful houses that are like out of a magazine, and that they've totally dove into this karma of 9 and they're blissed out about it. But you can tell by a person walking in the room. So I have a dear friend of mine that's a Virgo, and she's really matured through this, because at first her house was really austere and really flat, and then she ended up in a relationship that taught her some more of those subtleties, which is perfect because it's a karma of 9, so they needed to learn that. So now the house has a lot more subtlety and a lot more nuance, and even the Virgos relaxed a little bit because the space is actually supportive of her energy, okay? But it was something she learned, like she had to learn it. It was something she was working through. So then you've got a Libra, and you got a Libra now with a karma of 9. And the Libra is an air sign again, and so we've got an air sign energy with the karma of Isis, Nephthys, subtlety, and intuition. Again, that works beautifully. So you've got this fairness doctrine of a Libra, and you've got that sensitivity and that wateriness. And so this is a person who is very balanced and very fair and very sensitive and very caring and wanting the best for everybody and wanting it to work through and making it balance out. It's really beautiful. It's nice. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go to a karma of 10. So now we've got a Libra, and here they are, they're balancing everything out, but their karma is Jupiter. Now I know that this is associated with Sagittarius again, but in numerology this 10 is about power and leadership and expansion and Alexander the Great. So this Libra wants power, wants influence, wants expansion, but they're karmically challenged to get there. So it's not easy for them. They're working on it again, but they have the capacity to do it, but they must be willing to boldly go where no one has gone before and step into that bigger picture and drive home that point in some way. They need to take charge. They need to kick themselves in their own butt. They need to get going. They need to make it happen. They need to take the responsibility for themselves. And if they do that, they can be amazingly successful again. But then you've got a Scorpio, and now you've got a Scorpio in the 10th month. So now you've got that philosophical, plutonic, watery, scorpionic depth mixed with power and Jupiterian expansion. What you find is some of the biggest powerhouses in the world are Scorpios born in the 10th month. I have never met a Scorpio born in the 10th month that didn't rock. I mean, they're CEOs of corporations. So again, you've got the force of Jupiter in there, karmically mixed with that philosophical astuteness and that willingness to die a plutonic death if you have to in order to get there. And they're, whew, I mean, they get it done. They absolutely get it done. Nobody for a second would think they weren't going to get it done. So this is a beautiful combination for a Scorpio, and unless, you know, there's a 10 somewhere else in the 11th month, this is a lovely combination. I mean, it's a beautiful combination.